So are dudes just really, really scared now to speak up and speak their mind because they are afraid that they are going to be labeled sexist immediately?
Yeah, I would love to get inside of men's heads. It seems a little like it might be a scary place, but I'm willing to traverse inside your brains.
You might be surprised by the echo chamber.
Wow, it's so open and spacious. Look at all this square footage in here.
It's really relaxing in here.
No anxiety.
Hello.
No, but I wanted to ask you, Bert, and you, Mo, and any of our Bert Show listeners who identify as male, are you afraid to say things to women for fear of coming across as sexist or misogynistic? 1-855-BERT-SHOW, 855-237-8746. And I'll preface why I'm asking this question, or I'll share the story of the interaction I had with the man that's asking me, or that has propelled me to ask this question. Last weekend, I hosted an event for a charity. It's called the Rally Foundation. They raise money for childhood cancer research, right? And there's multiple, they're spread throughout the country, and they do fantastic work, right? And I've been partnering with them for over a decade. By the way, we raised $615,000 last weekend.
What?
Hey.
Which is, so they're trying to find better cures for, better treatments and ultimately a cure for childhood cancer, because government funding is ridiculously low when it comes to pediatric cancer.
Yeah, just as a sidebar, when you're giving to cancer, definitely do just 5-minute research, because most of that is not going to kids. It's going to adults, and they're important too.
They are important.
But a lot of that funding isn't there for kids.
4%. Kids get 4%. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's it. All right. So now that I got my little PSA out the way, thank you. I hosted the event. I was the MC for the entire thing. And it was like a little fashion show. And I was up on stage quite a bit, doing a lot of talking. And it felt really good. Like it was a good night. And I was like, yeah, Kristen, even afterwards, I'm like, you did a pretty good job up there. I think everybody had a good time. And sure enough, afterwards, people were very kind and complimentary. But there was one gentleman that came over to me as I'm like walking out of the venue, and I'm like just making my way out. And it was an older gentleman, so I'm going to say my guess is he's probably somewhere like in his mid-70s. And he comes up to me and he goes, "I would really like to say something to you, but I don't want it to come across as sexist." Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm just like, oh, it's been such a good night. We've raised so much money. I feel really good about the job I did on stage. What is this old man going to say to me? And
well, first of all, good for him for identifying that times have changed anyway. Because a lot of 70-year-olds don't even have any idea or don't accept it.
Well, and I thought that too, because it was kind of like, honestly, I'm like, it was a little bit refreshing that he was like, hey, I know this may come across a certain way. That's not my intent. So when I say this, I want it to be received well. And he goes, I just think you're absolutely adorable. And I thought you did a really good job up there. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So I think he was worried by calling me adorable as a grown woman that it may come across as sexist. However, like just that brief, did not know this man from Adam, brief encounter with him, that I didn't feel like he was being misogynistic, didn't feel like he was being sexist in the least bit. I thought he was paying me a lovely compliment, and that's it. But it got me wondering, like, if you're about to pay a compliment to a woman, do you guys now, and like where we are today as a society, do you stop yourself? Do you check yourself for fear of being like, I don't want to be perceived as sexist or misogynistic, even though I'm just trying to pay her a compliment?
For me, in life, no. Like, if I'm just giving someone a compliment, I don't think twice about it.
Okay.
But if I'm, like, at work, like doing a podcast, doing a show, there are a lot of times where I won't say certain things because me and Bert actually spoke about this when he was on my podcast. Sometime as a man in radio nowadays, it feels like if I talk about men, it's accepted. Like, if I say what I don't like about what men do, it's like, okay, we get that. But if I say I don't like what women do, I'm automatically a misogynist, and it's toxic masculinity. And then you'll kind of get woman-splained out of even having an opinion as a man. So sometimes I'll just be like, it's not even worth it. I won't say anything.
Let's see. Let me think about this for a second. constant fear.
All right.
It's always.
Watch what you say, white man.
I did look. I am at a certain age, and I also grew up in a very toxic environment with my dad. I mean, he was every sexist, misogynistic stereotype you had ever seen in your life. So
you learned what not to do.
Right. And it's been very, very hard to break those patterns, man. It's taken a lot of therapy to break those patterns. So I think, if anything, I'm more skittish and more sensitive now because I live by the cliche in cases like this: when in doubt, do without. Don't say anything at all.
So you would just go without even paying the compliment.
Yeah.
I understand why you would feel that. I got a couple DMs yesterday about using the term "man up" during that ick segment that we did.
And so, you know, are you kidding me?
I feel like I have a larger sense of empathy for you guys now. I get it.
Yeah.
You got to step around a lot of people's feelings.
Right. Thank you. Right. That was one conversation we did have on the show where I was kind of fuming the next day when, I think I was referring to the same thing, manning up, and people were coming down. Well, you can't really say that anymore. I'm like, no, you can. 'Cause I still kind of feel like, and maybe this is going to sound sexist or misogynistic, I think there is value in being a man.
I do too.
I do. Maybe I'm traditional that way, and while I don't subscribe to 1950s traditional roles, I think there is some pride that goes along with being a man, the same way there is a pride that goes along with being a woman.
Absolutely.
And that's not a I'm a better than you type thing. It's just like, let's appreciate each other's differences and each other's values.
What I was taught and what I feel like when someone says, hey, man up, that means take care of business. Provide, take care of business, be responsible. And I don't think those things, there's anything wrong with that. It's not saying women don't do that, but when a dude tells me that, that's how I feel.
I'm just going to start telling you to woman up.
I wouldn't like that. And maybe that's misogynistic.
The Bert Show.
Like what you just watched, you can get more of The Bert Show on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find us. I don't know what any of these buttons do, by the way.